Aita for scolding kids who were harassing me via calls. ATA for telling a group of kids to knock it off from harassing calls. AITA. My brother is currently super angry at me, and we're not speaking. For context, a few days ago, my nephew, 10Y, and a group of kids, 9 to 10Y he knows, decided to crank call people. But it's 2025, so it was crank FaceTimes. We're talking 30 and 45 mins. When it first happened, I thought it was spam. Then after the 4th or 5th, I picked up and saw my nephew. Other emails were the ones making the call. Thinking I got added to his group chat, playing a game or whatever. Accidentally, I got his attention and said that I'd been added and have a good time. They kept calling and calling. I answered again, thinking they couldn't remove me, and told them they might need to reform the group since they were still calling me, and to please stop as I was out. At a super important event as well. They continued. I contacted my brother and sister-in-law, asking for them to intervene, which they didn't at first because of a call they were on, and I kept getting the calls for another 30 mins, at which point I said, "Guys, enough, knock it off, and get me off this call before your parents get involved." They finally stopped. The next day it started again without my nephew, and I work in a client-centered job that requires me to use my phone, which they kept interrupting. No amount of blocking was working because they just kept adding new numbers and emails. I texted my brother again and told them to stop or I'd call their parents, the last remnants of my youth dying in that moment. I finally block enough that the calls stop, and my brother calls me and starts lecturing me about how I'm causing my nephew to be bullied, and they're just kids. I can't tell them what to do, much less yell at them. Now I was stern, but there was no yelling, no screaming, no inappropriate language. Just no nonsense. Cut it out. And suddenly my brother and I are fighting because he's blaming me for my nephew's bullying. And how does this look that his aunt is yelling at kids? I tell him he could handle it, or I would, but he cannot tell me what I can and can't do. That's when he lost it, claiming he can, and now there's a whole meeting at the school, and it's all my fault. Needless to say, I hung up. Fast forward, and now, via my sister-in-law, I find out my nephew isn't being bullied. A couple of kids made a comment or two, but he's fine and handled it, and there's community outrage, because obviously it didn't just impact me, but others as well, and I could have been in my right to file charges, which I wouldn't do. Am I living in the Twilight Zone? If I called some random adult as a kid 50 times in an hour, and they yelled at me and called my mom, I would have been grounded for a month. Much less impacting someone's work. WTH is happening.